Well, season one of Alien Earth wrapped up this week, and oh man, interesting stuff, I guess, in some ways, in terms of how they're treating AI, the potential for human consciousnesses to be transferred to machines. Also, some strange and disappointing stuff that they're doing with the aliens. I actually, right before watching the final episode, had a chat with patrons at the $5 tier and higher. It's a monthly chat where we get on one of the audio Discord channels over at patreon.com/spiritblade productions, most of which are free, and you can jump in and join and be a part of yourself. But this monthly hangout's reserved for those of the $5 and higher tier, and we ended up talking about Alien Earth. Most of us had seen all the episodes. One of us hadn't, so we dance around spoilers a bit, but we got into our thoughts about the season as a whole right before all of us had seen the final episode. So let me actually jump you to that conversation, because some interesting things came out of it in terms of what they're doing philosophically, thematically, how they're handling the Alien IP, and our various conflicting, not so excited thoughts about it. And then I will wrap up at the end with a few brief thoughts that I have after having seen the final episode.
I only mention this because you brought it up on the last podcast. I think it was the last one, but Alien Earth is going to wrap up tomorrow night.
That's right.
Yeah, tomorrow night. And maybe it's just for the best if it doesn't get renewed. That's where I'm at. So there is no season 2 renewal yet, and I don't know.
Oh, there isn't. Okay.
No. So no. It's interesting. I think that the show is kind of a mixed bag, and without getting into spoiler territory on it, I think that the problem is that it feels like Noah Hawley, the creator, had like a bunch of miscellaneous sci-fi ideas and couldn't get it like put into like a show like on its own. And like, I'll just put this in a show, but I'll just do this as an alien thing.
Yeah.
Because this show isn't really about the alien. It's just all the creatures are just like a MacGuffin, a plot device to get everything going, and then you've got all this other stuff going on, none of which is particularly. Some of it's interesting, but where'd you leave off when you were last watching it?
I'm caught up, and so I'm waiting with others now. I just caught up like middle of last week or late last week because I was going through with my workout routine and taking it pretty slow. I feel similarly. I feel like it's definitely a mixed bag. Maybe not for exactly the same reasons, but probably for a good chunk of them. You know, I think it's. I like that the Alien movies have had a defining characteristic of exploring AI and in some sense, in these androids, these synth humans and stuff. But I think they're leaning into it way too much in this show, to the point where like I think part of something else that is important to me in an alien movie is people running from aliens and dying from aliens, and me being concerned that people will die from aliens. And I'm just not concerned that people are going to die from aliens on a regular basis. And I was thinking about it, you mentioned like the different concepts, and I was a little bit surprised to realize that I don't mind that the xenomorph in particular is not getting like the lion's share of the focus when it comes to alien stuff. For me, because I mean, there does come a point where it's like, well, you're either going to jump the shark or it's going to get old if you're dealing with the same concept,
Right.
And so I was asking myself with the most recent episodes, like, am I open, if this were to be successful as a show, am I open to this franchise becoming about other alien types, provided that they have a similar net result of being like about disturbing body horror, getting inside of people, messing with people. Prometheus kind of started to go in that direction, where it wasn't just it was not primarily about the xenomorph, but it was still about this invasive body horror alien. And I found myself very open to that, because it reintroduces the fear of the unknown, because we don't know this new monster or monsters or whatever, but it's still creating that sense of invasive body horror. And I'm like, I would be content for this franchise to expand in that way if it would be able to continue to refresh that feeling. But they're leaning, for me, too much into AI and stuff, and like these
Yeah.
synth bodies and transcendence or whatever.
Right.
Well,
Well,
the
they've
eyeball
got
alien to me is super, super scary because I hate anything that has to do with eyeballs. I won't,
Yeah,
I won't even get
mhm.
contacts because I don't like the idea of having to touch my eye. So,
yeah. Dude, I got a friend that I've met in junior high who's got the same thing. As far as I know, he still has that thing. That's so cool.
What I think that I agree about the eyeball thing. The problem I think is that they've teased that alien. Like, what is it going to do? When are they going to finally let it loose? They've been teasing that creature
Yeah,
for like the whole series. About like what its
mm,
intentions are and what can it really do and
yeah,
all this other stuff. And I agree about like this show seems to tease the idea of all the other creatures are really cool too, but even they, for the most part, to me, have taken like too much of a backseat.
yes,
And I didn't really feel this way until the last episode, which is why I asked if you had seen it,
yeah,
because that was the last episode was the one that like jumped the shark for me because it took
mm,
all the frightening nature of the xenomorph, this impossible to control,
yes,
just alien force. I mean, like these things are such a force to be reckoned with, and now, without spoiling anything, I don't hope I didn't spoil anything. They've just jumped the shark too much to the point where like, oh, okay, now the xenomorph is really just like a tool in this
yeah.
show, and it's like we're not really supposed to be afraid of it anymore because of what transpired. So I don't know where they'll go with it tomorrow night, but
the
Y-
the
that
one
kind of ruined it
that
for
I,
me.
yeah, the one thing that I think has started to develop is that these, you know, AI children in human bodies are actually the ones that are becoming the monsters.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
And that started with the little red with the little redheaded girl,
yes, yeah,
um, where she kind of started going outside the bounds of her programming, shall we say?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And now with the lead one now, Wendy, or whatever her other real
yeah,
name is.
yeah.
She's getting kind of scary, because she has a way of communicating without spoiling it. I don't know. I don't know. Can we spoil things here, Adam? Can we
Well,
spoil it for you?
Adam, I think Adam is. Are you maybe still planning on watching the show?
Yeah, I'm keen to check it out, but I've listened to everything you've said about it on the podcast. So
Okay, so yeah, we'll still keep it. We'll still keep it vague. But
Yeah,
go ahead,
yeah.
John.
We'll keep it vague. Her method of communication is creepy. I think it's pretty creepy to see that
Yeah,
happening. Um, and and the results of it. While I agree with Dan that it kind of seems to tame the alien,
yeah,
I I I still see that, to me, then the fear has now shifted to Wendy instead of the alien.
yeah. And I think what's going on with the AI and the digital transcendence concept they're playing with and asking questions of, lightly asking questions of. I think that's interesting. I think it's interesting. It's not really what I want the focus of an alien intellectual property thing to be
Right.
on, but I'm with you in that I find it interesting. They're playing with some interesting ideas. I think something else before I ask this question of you guys. Something else that made me feel like, oh, the alien. Why am I not scared of it right now? Is because they were showing too much of it in daylight. I think in one of the
Mm.
recent episodes. I was like, why am I feeling differently about the alien right now? It's like, oh, I'm seeing it clear as day. And I don't. I think I want them to hide the monster more. But here's my question for you guys. At this point, in your head canon, what is your assumption? Well, here, okay, I'll ask two questions that each of you can respond to. Do what is your headcanon about, like, are these AIs that quote unquote think they are children consciousnesses, or are they the actual children. So what's your headcanon, and then what do you think is the writer intent at this point to be the case?
For me, in my headcanon, they're AI.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean it, and it's because I'm an IT guy. I'm involved with AI. I'm involved with quantum computing. So I kind of understand what could happen there.
Uh-huh.
In that case, I think the writer's intent is not for it to be one or the other, but a
Oh, yeah.
blend of both.
Oh, okay.
So think of a personality, an AI that's enhanced by a human personality,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa, a human personality that's enhanced by AI. I don't know which one, but I think they're being ambiguous enough
Yeah. Yeah.
to let us think about that. And I actually
Yeah.
like that. I
Yes, me
like that
too.
they're being ambiguous and vague so that we can think about it and what the consequences of that could be.
Yeah.
And I actually hope they don't ever tell us.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a bit like well, ultimately Battlestar Galactica showed its cards, but in the last episode,
Mhm.
and they were very weird cards indeed. But but I mean, for most of that show, it was the same thing. It was like, well, this is what the Cylons are saying about themselves. Is that true, or is that just some weird glitch of programming, or who knows what? But yeah. Okay, cool. Other thoughts? Other perspectives? Or shared perspective?
I think that I tend to agree with John, sort of. I like the ambiguity of it,
Yeah.
but then at the same time, it makes me feel like they didn't have like a point there.
Hmm.
I feel like the show is not trying to make a point, and it's just spent 8 weeks stringing us along without trying to make a point about it. And I think that in my own head canon, I think that at the beginning of the show, I wanted to believe that they were still the same kids. Just like, I guess I'm an optimist. I don't know, but now that
Yeah.
it's shifted, it's clearly like they're not the same. Like, I mean, most of them are all having some sort of psychotic break, right? And then
Yeah.
um, and then there was that scene again. I won't spoil it, but there was that scene last week that I thought was actually pretty impactful as they're trying to escape from the facility that are outside and like in the swampy area, and they came upon that thing or
Yeah.
that you know,
Yep.
and that was like really. I'm like they are really just like they are definitely shifting it now to where like if you thought that you were still the same, because even Wendy throughout the earlier episodes are like, oh, I'm human. I'm still this, like when she was
Yeah.
insisting on rescuing her brother and trying to keep this connection, she obviously still thinks that she feels something for him. But
Yeah.
obviously, they're all using that to play with it as she becomes more
Yeah.
machine-like, alien-like, if you want to use that term. So
Yep.
I think that by the end of the series, you'll have, at least me, I'll have the opposite thinking of, because I think they're going to bring it home to where they are the real monsters. So that's the title of the episode, is The Real Monsters. So
Oh.
I think it's the
Well,
kids that are going to be that, I think.
okay. I was trying to figure out from that title, I was like, okay, is it the kids that they're saying, or is it like humanity or something? Because that's such it feels like a tired out theme at this point.
Yeah,
It's like, the corporations are the monsters and the, humans,
sure.
AKA Americans,
Yeah. Well, I assumed that was what they were going for too until I saw the last episode, the previous
Yeah.
episode, and I'm like, oh no, maybe they're actually referring to the kids with that title,
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah.
they're all turned into. So
That's interesting. Yeah, I think in my, yeah, I'm with you guys. I think the authorial intent is ambiguous enough at this point. That's hard to say. I would say if it leans one direction, I do think it leans naturalistic. So in other words, that they are the children transferred over, and but something's off in some way. In my head canon, I would say it's that the kids are dead, that they died in the first episode, very quietly, without any fanfare. And that what we've been dealing with up to this point are in some way they're like their brainwave patterns, there's something physical that they're able to recognize as patterns of thinking, quote unquote, in these brains that they transferred over and then tasked these machines with picking up the statistical likely reactions and stuff to various stimuli. But they can't simulate it perfectly, and something's gotten off or something like that. But I mean, like in my mind, and I admit at the same time that like I am taken in by the performances. I am taken in at times by the desire for the brother to, of course, be reunited with his real sister. And so there's certainly times in fiction like this where I just have to, just for my own reasons that I don't lay on anybody else, but for my own reasons, I just have to steel myself and say, no, this is not a person or whatever like that, even though I feel like that's not what they want me to be thinking and feeling. But anyway, it's an interesting experience. Even if it's not what I want ultimately from an alien thing, it's an interesting experience, and interesting enough that I at least want to see the season through to the end.
It's interesting to me how they've used Hirsch in the season.
Mm-hmm.
They've used him as kind of this foil against the people who want to think that they're actually kids, and he's kind of there to say, no, you're more than human. You are more advanced. You're human 2.0.
Yeah.
In a sense. And it's interesting because he's an android, and he recognizes his limitations as an android, but he also recognizes his strengths.
Yeah.
And the kids don't yet recognize their strengths in these artificial bodies.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes for some inconsistencies in the show that I've noticed. Like, there are times when they're straining to do certain things, and I'm like, wait a minute, aren't they supposed to be super strong?
Yes.
Why are they having trouble doing that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, but it is interesting to me to see that, and it also kind of makes you wonder, okay, you're creating this thing that's super strong, and why don't you have some kind of limiter on that thing until it can get control of its strength, number one.
Yeah.
And to prevent an accident from happening. Like some of the accidents that happen because of their strength. And the other thing that I've often wondered too is,
oh, did we lose John? I'm not hearing John.
Me neither.
Neither am I.
Okay.
He really left us hanging there.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm so anxious to hear the rest of his thought.
Well, in the interest of getting Adam back involved, I was kind of thinking of moving on to a different topic anyway at this point. Well, still without getting into spoilers, but after having seen the final episode of Alien Earth Season 1, bottom line, I'm not really looking forward to a season 2 at this point. Where they left things was not where I want an alien show to be. First off, I just had general issues with the lack of logic in some of the plot. They had a seemingly completely lacking set of fail-safes for the children in the synth bodies. Some for the aliens too, but definitely for like the children in the synth bodies. And if some of them start going rogue or things start getting a little Lords of the Fliesy, there ought to be an off switch that is easy as all get out, especially for the main Prodigy CEO to make use of. And that just seems like, what in the world is going on that is not a thing? How did they let this get out of control? I think the answer is probably supposed to be arrogance. So of course we can allow for that to some degree, but even so, I'm just like, like, come on. They even mentioned themselves early on that they could see through the eyes of the synth kids at all times, and then that idea seemed to be completely lost and not taken into account, and all kinds of things happened as a result that I think didn't need to happen. This season, as it progresses, child empowerment in the most irritating way to me. I do not like stories where children are made more powerful and smarter and more capable than the adults. Usually those are shows made for children so that children can feel empowered. But as an adult viewer, typically we are not into child empowerment stories. Certainly I am definitely not. I kind of recoil against anything like child empowerment. But this isn't a story that's for kids. So I was just left with this frustration of like, these, and I think we're supposed to feel that conflict, that grating feeling of like, these are children and they should not have the power that they do by the end of this season. And so, yeah, I think there's some of that also going on with the Prodigy CEO himself, who is basically a man-child. He's not really developed maturity. He's extremely brilliant, but he lacks entirely in wisdom. And so I think there's something to be said that the show does bring out, that there is a wild difference between intelligence and wisdom, and unfortunately we see that a lot in the world, and certainly in this show. And I think we're supposed to recoil from it, but it doesn't make it any more tolerable as I'm sitting through the final episodes of this season. Speaking of the finale, there was at least one scene where the CG just felt subpar. I was like, oh man, this is just, it's inconsistent. I feel over the course of the season. The sets I still think are great. I think the filming in general is really solid, but some of the CG just really falls short, and that's a bummer. I think what I was feeling by the end of the final episode was this impatience, the kind of impatience that you feel when you are trying to be patient and listen to someone who is foolish mouth off. And I think that is something that as Christians we need to develop a tolerance for. We need to be able to patiently listen to people who have a totally wrong perspective. And we need to have patience in allowing them to vent, in allowing them to spout off, with the hope that at some point when that settles down, there'll be an opportunity for us to share some kind of truth. Maybe it's not in that conversation. Maybe it's in a future conversation, and we're just building equity by listening to them foolishly spout off. But that is, it needs to be said, a skill, a tolerance that we need to have and to grow in as believers. However, when I'm sitting down for entertainment, and I've already spent some time during the week, as I find myself doing in my involvement with my church and trying to minister to people, trying to communicate with people, trying to work through difficult things, and just sometimes it's just involved with being a parent. But there are just times in my life throughout the week where I have to engage in that discipline of being patient and listening to someone just kind of spout off and not let me have a word in edgewise. So when it comes to sitting down for my entertainment, I'm like, this is this is not what I want to spend my time doing. And yet I feel like they just part the seas to allow foolish people, especially these synth children or whatever the heck they are, to mouth off. And I'm just like, these characters have way too much power and are being given way too much space to mouth off in comparison to the wisdom that they have, which is virtually none. And so it's a frustrating experience to let characters just go off like that for a while. So, and they're left at the end of the season in a position of great power. Now, I think potentially what they're setting us up as audience members to want is for them to be taken down a peg. But there's enough complexity that I'm wondering, is that really, what I'm supposed to be thinking? Or in the writers' minds, are these like the good guys, Hard to say, hard to say. I'd be interested in getting your thoughts if you want to send those to me via email if you're listening to the podcast, paeter@spiritblade.com, or you can leave a comment below the YouTube version of this content, or any other place you want to reach out and get in touch and let me know your thoughts. But I think maybe just because I'm reviewing content, I'll end up reviewing the premiere of a season 2 if this show gets a season 2. But I can tell you, just on a personal level, I don't want a season 2. There were some really neat things going on, some quality things, some neat sci-fi things, but not what I want, certainly from an alien based show, an alien show, and just not what I want in general with the way things ended up at the end of Alien Earth season 1. And those are all of my thoughts for now. As always, love to get yours in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe. All that stuff is very useful. There's also a ton of content being made for you at christiangeekcentral.com. You can check it all out there as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. christiangeekcentral.com